To the cloud. Hi, everybody. It's Sarah Lee Shakina Sophia here with the Ladies of Liberty Roundtable. And today our subject matter is actually human trafficking. And we're going to talk about our different experiences with that and how we relate to what's happening right now on the planet and the executive orders that have been signed to end human trafficking all over the planet and what that looks like, and just sort of to give people some information and maybe just share our own experience with it so that we can just share our experience. And I felt to create a group to have a conversation about this specifically because to me, this is the real pandemic. This is how I feel about it. And a lot of us on the call are energy workers, if not all of us. And so it's really important that I feel to hear from the divine feminine perspective what it is that we are experiencing on this level so that, and how we are supporting this situation. So with that, I'm just going to say, I'm going to ask who here has watched A Child's Voice, the movie? Laurel. Okay. Every time I went to watch that movie, I could not bring myself to watch it. A Child's Voice is a movie about human trafficking, and it's a film. It's a feature film that, follows a story about this child who was killed in sacrifice and then reaches through the ethers to sort of talk with a young woman and to try to get the young woman to help him. It's something on that level. And I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. And so what I really want to communicate though about all of this is that how we feel right now, what's happening on the planet and how the world is changing so completely. And we're literally in a war between, good and evil on some level. We're up against some really dark frequencies that have had control of the matrix, the false matrix, for a really long time. So this kind of flows into that as well in terms of how our world is constructed and the financials and the debt slave program and the beast program and how that's all functioning within our realities, right? So the oil road and the water road, Laurel, let's start there. I think just real briefly, maybe describing that would be very helpful for people in terms of understanding the difference between the two realities.
Okay, thank you. And also, I don't know, our sister calling in on the phone, I don't know if there's a way to mute.
Yes, should be a way, *6 or something.
No. *6, okay.
I don't remember what it is. It's just your phone keeps pulling over and clicking and things. So.
Oh yes. Okay. Not sure.
Okay. So hello, thank you, ladies, for us all coming together and for all of us that are joining in to this offering and sharing and discussion. So, we're in the time of the prophecy of the two roads. I call it the oil road and the water road. And I'm not sure what other indigenous families call it, but we're in the time of the two roads. And the one road being the colonizer program, it's the whole AI transhumanism reality that we've been living in, this culture where there's not really an honoring of, I would say, the life-giving principles of life from birth to death. There's an actual infiltration and corruption of the system in reversal codes. And that this paradigm really does double speak. I would say the value structure of this culture is to not tell the truth, which is hard for us humans to wrap our heart minds around. The culture literally is set up in a reversal code. Do not tell the truth. This culture is, they like to really grab the children. It's an entrapment using drugs, alcohol, mind control, torture, long-term systematic process. Get the kids when they're young. A lot of the 13 main families on our planet, the big money on our planet. These lineages, they're really a death cult. They do indoctrinate their own children into this system. It's very common that often their first child will be sacrificed to their satanic occult rituals. It is definitely a system of cannibalism. And when I've actually had direct ability to see some of these overlighting energy frequencies that are not actually human, they're extraterrestrial in nature. Some of these overlording beings that I've witnessed they don't have access to the heart. The heart bliss is what connects us to our soul and brings the soul in. That's our deep nourishment of even being alive. These beings are not accessing this heart. And so everything is externalized. Everything is like an endless well of addiction. It's all externalized feeding of source, like vampiric. It's infiltrated through every sector of our life. It's got the agenda of let's get the humans off the planet. Let's control the humans. And they've infiltrated in every way from geoengineering to our food sources, being shifted. Every sector we know that we've been dealing with that is destroying the earth, destroying the food, causing cancers, all these things we've done. This is the oil road. I'll just wrap it with, it's a service to self road in a lot of ways. It is, it's the money, trance state, fame road. It's where people throw their soul at the feet of the big money over the fame and the fortune and the prestige. And there's literally an energetic entity, spiritual energetic with this whole system. The water road is the road of humanity. It's following original mother law. It's bringing the women and the children back to the center of the circle. It's coming back into a circle. It's having our consciousness holding proper guardianship of the power source of the invisible realms of the women field that hold that space so they can do their good work to inform consciousness of how to move in a beauty way. The water road is returning back to our planetary cosmic consciousness as our daily life. It's taking our internal seat inside of our body elemental of fire, water, earth, air, and ether. It is taking that inner seat of technology and awakening through the inner heart into our planetary knowing, where we have access to everything the internet gives us without the internet. It's the road of nature. It's the road of the long tide, which is the healing tide, which is the soul tide. It's where the soul has space to come into the body. It's what are our rites of passage from birth to death? What is the community's role to help each other bring our souls into our body? What is our job as nature to give accurate reflection and appropriate physical contact so the human being can actually fully blossom into the flowering human of humanity, the flowering beauty way, and for us to live close to the earth with each other, with our elders, with our youth, being safe guardians, being guardians of the earth, being guardians of the animals, being guardians, deep internal listening, spiritual bliss, soulful bliss. So in wrapping this oil road, this AI, this whole one world government that is the agenda of our deep state, we've already in one timeline gone down this road. And this road, when we are so externally focused, is a path to lose connection to our souls. Like these overlighting beings, if we followed their road, guess what, fam? This place of our soulful embodiment could be lost. But we've already done that. We're here to embrace the water road, take our inner seat, come back to the circle, honor the birth, first blood, first ejaculation, giving birth, holding our blood, dropping our mortal coil, reviewing our life consciously, being with our ancestral realms, and either incarnating again or going somewhere else. I mean, it's the life wheel. It's what's our role. So it's coming back home to the earth. So we are in the road of the two roads, the prophecy of the two roads. And this is our time to choose. And there is so much distraction that us coming together to hold hands and to share and to reflect with each other so we can remember ourselves, come into coherency together, so we can understand what we're up against, is very helpful right now. And I believe in us, and I know I got all excited there. So did that bring what you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
So I want to speak a little bit to the historical aspects of what she has just mentioned. 4:44. Okay. Perfect timing. I would love to speak to the historical understanding of, on an energetic perspective and on an energetic level, what we have discovered through our own personal work in terms of, I gotta take these off because these are reflecting. In terms of the overall matrix itself and how that false matrix was established and implemented and then also enacted, and to the point where it was just a few days ago until now. So there was a time on this earth where advanced civilizations existed, and they were highly, highly technologically advanced in terms of energy, plasma, light, sound. The way that they created things was through light and sound rather than by physical machinery or things of that nature. It was using crystals and things of that nature, and light codes and cosmic energies to establish and create energy that was used in the cities to fuel the cities with their energy sources. So all of that was flourishing at a certain point until such time as there's a group of fallen beings who, I should say, that's the best way for me to describe it in this moment, a fallen being. But really, these beings were not organic soul embodied beings. They are a false matrix being. They're a false programming that is, they're consciousness, but they're not existing within the organic source light frequency embodied within a human, within their embodiment. So those service to self beings, we'll call them, there was a tear in the field in the universe, and from that point forward they were able to enter this field into where we are in this particular universal construct. This is the way that I understand it. So because of the universal law of free will that was established here, we had to sort of allow them to be, right? And they became creator gods. And they became these beings that sort of took advantage of the situation, if you will, all then harvesting all the energy from the human population and from all the divine beings back up into outside of this universe, into the void that is feeding a specific being. So that's the way that that's just a simple way for me to understand it at this moment in time to share. So that was a long time ago that happened, right? So there have been many points along the way where we've had these organic, beautiful societies and civilizations that have established themselves then to just be hijacked by this energy again and again and again and again. And one of those times was during the time of Atlantis and during the continents that were here with Mu, Lemuria, Sumeria, Pangaea, and Atlantis. And so Atlantis as a civilization was incredibly advanced, and there was a group of priests and priestesses that sort of were like a steering council for the rest of the society. And at a certain point, someone came and appeared out of nowhere, literally, and infiltrated the larger group of priests and priestesses and established a scientific lab, if you will, and was able to somehow glamorize the priests and priestesses and manipulate them into turning into scientists. At that point, the priests and priestesses, the overarching group of Atla Ra priests and priestesses, that priesthood knew something was desperately wrong and that we were in a position where we were going to probably lose our civilization. We knew this ahead of time, intuitively. And so what proceeded to happen is this infiltration gained traction, and meanwhile, there was a ship off planet just waiting for this to happen so that they could come in and invade our reality, right? And make their way into our bubble. And so through a series of events, they were able to manipulate the DNA and take the heart of humanity offline and separate the humanity from their God consciousness. So that has been reestablished and reconnected, and the creator gods and all the beings that were connected to that false matrix programming have been evicted. And it is really important to understand what that means. So what that means is, with this golden age coming online and us having freedom on this planet for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, potentially, the propensity to want to go back into the debt slave program is very strong because it's all we know. Okay. So what we need to understand is that we are literally entering into a frequency that we haven't experienced. This is an unprecedented new frequency of cosmic light that is coming onto this planet that has never before been experienced by humanity in general, let alone by our souls, right? Since we've been here. So this is a new level of energy that we are exposing ourselves, that we have an opportunity to embody. And so as we do this and we come forward with our natural, innate, organic wisdom that is part of our soul lineage, that is part of our source seed consciousness, this will shift the entire planet and everything about it. So what was holding this dark false matrix in place was the sacrifice of children and the bloodletting of humanity. So what that means is, by this exchange of blood being given through sacrifice to these beings, it created a situation where we were under the water. We weren't able to rise up and experience the freedom to breathe naturally, because this blood that was being shed, the war that was on humanity that was taking place, was this involuntary consent to this false matrix that was being held in place by blood sacrifice. And that is being eliminated right now on the planet. That is literally being annihilated right now through legions of soldiers and legions of people pushing to rid the planet of this frequency. Okay? And all of us working together can make that happen. And there are very specific people taking physical actions in the physical matrix to dismantle all aspects of that reality. And so as the awakening continues, because we're going to be in this for a while, it's going to take a while for every single human being to unhook themselves from this false matrix consciousness, to come into the natural world, right? It's not like it's just going to poof, it's going to happen. It's a dismantling of a matrix that has been in place for an incredibly long time. But the most recent modern false matrix that we are experiencing now, in my recollection, is directly connected to the Carrington event, which was a solar flash that happened in 1859. And there were these magnificently, ornately built buildings for, like, just beautiful, ornate, beautiful buildings. And cities across the world. There was a global civilization that existed, and it was called Tartaria. And there was a mud flood. And I believe that the mud flood happened because of the solar event. That's my understanding of it right now. It could change. I'm still studying it. But what I'm understanding is that prior to the mud flood, we had a very different world, and magic was prevalent. And there were giants, and the fae were visible, and all of these things. And so there's been different points in history where there's been mud floods, and our history has been washed away or covered up or hidden from us. And the true history of what has happened here is now being revealed to us through these giant Buddhas being carved into the mountains, or Easter Island, for example. There are many places in the world that they're still intact, these beautiful ornate buildings that don't make any sense to our modern society, and we have inherited them from another reality, another society that existed prior to that event. So what's interesting, though, is at the turn of the century, of the 20th century, in the early 1900s, maybe the late 1800s, there was an industrial revolution sort of situation that happened, a technological revolution. And during that time is when the families with the bloodlines took over. They bred with the royals. The royals were broke, and so the royals agreed to breed with the Rothschilds, right? And from that point forward is when they were able to get into a position of power, like real power. And from that point, the interbreeding and all the things that happened created the bloodletting, because they had hemophilia, which was a blood disease, the royal blood disease, that required them to have to consume blood. So then we have this situation on the planet where there's all these people being sacrificed, and it was happening before that. It's an ancient practice. It's been happening for a very long time. However, it became modernized during that time. And from that point forward, in those lineages, they created a financial debt slave system that then all the money funneled up to these families, right? And it became two predominant, there were many families involved in the beginning, but in modern time, technically speaking, the two largest families are the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. And they participate in, and the royals, of course, because they're all connected. So it's actually a false royalty, because at a certain point, a false person came in, or somehow somebody came in, and the royalty went offline, and it became this group of people, which included the popes, right? And the Catholic Church and the Vatican and all of that. And so then they began to rule the world from their global little conclave, right? And that is what created this insatiable appetite for the consumption of blood, wars, right? And all of these ways that blood becomes shed on the planet, and energy gets harvested through fear and through ego and through idol worship and through money, and all of these different ways that loosh is created to then feed energetically these interdimensional beings that are existing and moving and operating and living in and through these families. That is all being taken down right now. And how that happened, it is very interesting. A group of white hats in the military of the United States approached Trump in the late 90s, early 2000s with JFK Jr., and they approached him to run for president back then. And everybody was talking about it back then, and he decided not to do it. He decided to wait. And what he did is he proceeded, because NASARA was signed into effect actually in the year either 1999 or 2000 through Bill Clinton, actually, through the white hats holding him at gunpoint, But what ended up happening is because there were too many people that were able to control the system at that time, that were in the cabal, the deep state, they were able to enact this false matrix and keep everybody distracted and hidden from the truth of this Nasara Act that was actually in effect. Okay, so it's been in effect for over 20 years, but they weren't able to do anything about it because every single president that was in office was placed there very intentionally to keep this harvesting system in place and to keep all of humanity asleep so that they could have control of the matrix. Okay, so then this group of individuals became a larger and larger and larger group behind the scenes, and they watched and they created and they listened and they tracked everything through the NSA, and they started to track every single interaction with the cabal as well as humanity to catch them in the act. So then now they have all the evidence and the proof to come forward and say, here's what happened. So it was very, very organized and very, very, very well organized situation. So now the second day in office, now you have to understand, I am not a political person. I am apolitical. But when it comes to the Declaration of Independence in our Constitution, I am in line with the principles that were created by the founding fathers. Now there's a whole other, situation with that, and everyone saying this country was established by racists and all this other stuff. But that's an emotional reaction to a trauma-informed consciousness that is hurt, that is starving and scared. When you look at how this country was established, it was in response and reaction to the King of England, King George, and his blatant energy harvesting of the population. So all the principles that were established for the United States were actually in response to that darkness, and them establishing principles to live by and to establish the United States as a sovereign nation, right? So the second day in office, Trump signed an executive order into establishment to end human trafficking on the planet, to wipe it out, to end it, to stop it from happening, which meant that all of these people had to be trained, and all of these military had to be trained in combat for dealing with interdimensional beings, underground tunnels, like all these levels that we don't even know about, right? Like they had to reorient themselves to fighting a war that they weren't prepared to fight yet. So it took a while, but have you ever asked yourself why everybody hates Trump? Have you ever asked for 3 years solid? Come on, there's a reason, right? So that's simple. Like, pay attention. There's a reason why everybody hates this person, because he is literally dismantling their entire matrix. And he's doing it by the book, by law. And the other, I don't know if it was an executive, I think it was also an executive order on December 21st, 2017, he signed into office to seize the assets of anyone, any person involved in human trafficking or crimes against humanity. So they have been starved out of their assets and their monies. So what happens? They're scrambling to figure out how to fund all this stuff, and they're creating wars, and they're creating riots, and they're creating protests, and it's the same thing they did in the 60s in the civil rights movement. Same exact thing all over again. All controlled, all manipulated, all by design, right? because that's all they know. They don't have a God voice, an organic, original thought that can step them into a new frame of thinking. They are stuck in a pattern of thinking through this manipulation and control of their psyche and their souls, trapped in black boxes, right? That they're not able to actually think for themselves. They're in service to a dark being. And that's it. The dark being is, the insatiable appetite of this dark being is such that it doesn't allow them to have a free thought form. They are consumed by this pattern. They can't act outside of it, right? They don't even know themselves, some of them, that they are under complete and utter indoctrination and mind control. They believe what they're doing is right. So for those critical thinking humans that still feel like the authorities, quote unquote, the mainstream media, what they're feeding you is the authoritative voice, it's because they've been indoctrinated into this system. A beast system, a death program. They don't understand that there is a life program, a life affirming agenda that is moving through the energetics of this planet every single moment of every single day. They don't have access to that organic frequency. And so it makes it very difficult for people to unlock that framework out of their thinking process to hear anything else that is being said, to notice something different is actually happening than what they think is happening, that the virus may exist, or there may be some bacterial component to it that's spreading throughout the population, but that we've been being sprayed for how many years now? How many years have we been? Over 20.
Well, I was, you mean the geoengineering?
Geoengineering has been going on since 1993 specifically, that I
was
remember.
watching in the 90s forward.
Right. So since 1993, so here's an interesting thing. I'm going to tangent for a second here, people. So in 1991 in Hollywood, California, there was a private meeting that took place. In this private meeting, they locked the doors. They got all the A&R reps for music, rock and roll music, and whoever, A&R reps and some, musicians. And they steered, in this meeting, they said, this is what you're going to do. This is what the plan is. This is what you're going to do. And they had to sign an NDA, and they were scared into submission, this group of people. And what they then did is they steered the population away from where it had been into a new frequency of violence and sexual deviation and perversion through music in the music industry. Okay. And so I knew one of those people that was in that room, and I got to see him that evening after he had been in that meeting, and I sat with him. And it's interesting to me that it took this long for that information to come out, because they had signed an NDA, so nobody was talking. But essentially what they did is the Illuminati came in and took over the music industry, and it became a ritual sacrifice industry, literally, where all of the music and all of the big popular musicians and stars, the rock stars, became hosted and had made sacrifices and sold their soul to Lucifer or Satan, whoever. They're two different beings, but I don't believe personally that Satan is on here anymore. I believe it's Lucifer and some other beings that are part of that collective of interdimensional beings that are harvesting energy from the population. So they would have to sell their soul in order to achieve fame and achieve status. And then the idol worshiping would then start, because the energy harvesting of the loosh would come through that person in that vessel, and then feed up to the being, right? So that happened in the music industry, and it also happened in the entertainment industry in terms of acting and movies. And the movies became increasingly violent and bloodthirsty and gory and sexual. The PG-13 started. We had all the movie ratings completely changing out of nowhere after they'd been the same forever. All of a sudden, we have all these different movie ratings, and children became the accessibility of violence and sex to children became increasingly ever present. And then the toy industry, and then the pageants, and like, so it was in the schools, they were teaching sexual education to children that were under 6 years old. Like in kindergarten and preschool, they have sex education. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The depravity was real, and you could see it, and it's still happening. So all of that needed to come to a screeching halt for this reset. And so I believe that the universe is using this adversity and all of these situations to work to our advantage, to bring us into right relations in all of these different ways, so that the Black Mirror technology that's hooking everybody into this consciousness and this false matrix can be stopped and go offline, so that people can reset, right? Because without us being unhooked from the Black Mirror, it's going to be very difficult for people to unhook themselves from all of these levels of consciousness, right? And so we've increasingly seen how every year it gets worse and worse and darker, and then children are getting stolen through the social welfare systems, and the people that were placed in positions to protect the children are the people that are harming the children. It has to stop. And then when anybody speaks up against anyone in this Kabbalistic sort of frequency, this matrix that is designed and organized, if anyone speaks out against that, they're a conspiracy theorist, they're a nut job, they're a drug addict, they're an alcoholic, they have a problem, they kill themselves, they committed suicide. No, they were suicided. Let's get real. The same exact pattern. Hanging yourself with a red rope. Really? Off a doorknob. Really? It's an exact pattern. They use the same murder tactics on every individual. It's literally a ritual sacrifice. And they are flaunting it in our faces. They think it's funny. Okay. I'm done ranting for the moment. I actually feel guided to hear from Lucia about her personal experience in the foster care system, because she was a foster care single mom for several years, and she spoke out against the foster care system, and they shut her down. And I want to hear a little bit from her about that experience and how many children she tried to help through that system. And she's in Canada, okay? Not even in America, she's in Canada. So, Lucia?
And Rosalind, would you mute your phone, sweetheart?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
No, thank you, love.
Oh, now we can't see your face, though, Rosalind, for some reason. So, Lucia? Oh, maybe she's eating her food right now. She was going to eat some food. So, anybody, I'd love to hear from Rosalind or Sean or Jesselyn as well about your experience with how you observe human trafficking and how it affects you, and all the levels for you as a person that brought you to this level of awakening where you were able to see beyond this veil and be able to witness life in a different way. I'd love to hear that. Rosalind.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how it's
Oh,
muted.
okay.
Okay,
There we
so
go.
I actually don't have any experience with the sex trafficking or any of that. I guess I will say it's my gut. It's my intuition for some reason. Everything that both of you have been saying, I've already known it for some reason. And I guess I don't know why. But I found like bits and pieces of things, and it's just kind of tied together. And I actually have a sister-in-law that's in CPS, or she used to be in CPS. And I remember her saying probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that a lot of the sex trafficking is happening with elite or with very wealthy people, and they're the ones that are in charge of it. And then I mentioned it to her during a family dispute a couple weeks ago, and she said, I never said that. So I don't understand where that came from.
Wow.
So and that she said it when I actually was getting my CPL, because I wanted to get my CPL, so I can carry a gun if I need to. I go out in the woods a lot and different things, and we hunt, so we protection. But she said it was elites, or not elites, but very wealthy people that are in charge of it. And then a couple weeks ago, she backtracked. So
she has a gag order to keep her job, probably.
She's switched jobs because she hates it so much. So she now works for actually the tribe up in northern Michigan, but kind of the same field still. But I guess I didn't know if something attached to her, it could have like got her to kind of
maybe
change her train of thought, because we had totally different views. I mean, she's totally,
or she had her life threatened, and so she can't speak about it now, and she's scared.
That could be true. That could be very true.
Or she's a part of it.
Yeah, she could be, but I don't think she.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't think
you never know. Yeah.
But you never know. She could be complicit. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, even if they say something to someone about it, right, and they're like expressing it at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't participated. Do you know what I'm saying? Because she worked for CPS. She had to do her job.
Yeah.
Even if she didn't want to do it, she was in a position where she had to do it.
And that could be why it tore her apart so much too.
Oh, of course.
I know. I mean, I would go over there after a bad day, and she would just let into us and be just crying all night.
Wow.
So
imagine what she has seen. You know.
Yeah.
Whew,
so
it's heavy.
Unfortunately, I don't have any experience, but for some reason, I just know, and I don't know how I know. I don't know how I know. That's all I can say.
You can feel it. You can feel it. Yeah. It's very clear. You know, the hypersexualization of children.
Yeah.
Toddlers and tiaras. Like, what the fuck is that? Like.
Yeah, I can't watch movies anymore. We had the TV on last night, and it was the first time in I can't tell you how long, and I can't handle anything.
I can't either.
Yeah.
I can't watch any movies anymore. I can't watch Netflix. I can't. It's just all false. It's like you're literally going into the false matrix to watch it. You're like, okay, here I go. I'm going into the virtual world now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, whoa, you can totally see it. Just mind blowing on that level. So Jesselyn, I want to hear quickly your experience.
Okay. I don't have any direct experience either, except for being a woman of almost 52 years old, watching, life as it goes by, that how it has increased monumentally, how much children come up missing, like where there's Amber Alerts on signs as you're driving down the freeway. When we were kids, it used to be on the back of a milk carton. It's just, it's like changed. Our world has changed drastically in that way. And then, like what you guys said about the movies, the last, 10 years at least, I think my husband and I, whenever we, like what's on at the movies, it went from, say, 10% scary movies to now those are 90% of what's available. So there's no movies to go see if you're not a scary movie watcher, which I'm not, because I don't like to be scared, and I don't so we've had that conversation so many times over the last probably 10 years is like, why does everybody like being scared so much? Why do people get off on these, like, what I can't even think of the name of them, but like The Ring, I guess, The Ring 5 or 6, or like all the scary movies have such sequels of numbers, and it's like, that is all there is anymore, Yeah. And then when we had the yoga studio in California, Love 146, which was one of the human trafficking things, we did some stuff with them. So I was aware, but I wasn't aware until probably sometime in the last couple years of it being tied to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all the satanic things, which I know go way back to ancient history. So, and the Pope, and you've heard all these stories. We've had Catholic friends, and they're all hijacked in the head. So like I feel what it is just there's been a puzzle, and there's been pieces throughout my life that have come in, but now they're all coming together. I feel like the whole puzzle is the picture is getting very, very clear, what this puzzle is.
Right.
How I feel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The veil has been lifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean, do you want to share a little bit about your experience at all?
Sure. I don't have direct experience, but as I have been diving into these different layers that you and I work on a very deep level and see what is it operating, forming, and influencing the collective. It is becoming more and more and more and more apparent to me what's actually happening. And it's a lot for people to handle, to really to even think about that. Like Jay and I had a really interesting conversation this morning because I have been doing a lot of political research, and what spiritual force is actually informing the political agendas is really my question. And the work that we do really answers those questions. And so, which is very diametrically opposed to some of my husband's views just about politics and business and money and some of those things. So we had a very interesting conversation this morning, and I said, here you need to look at like some of these things. And he's like, do you really believe this stuff about the pedophile rings and I said, it's so much more complicated than that. Like that is one facet of an agenda that is not in the favor for the human being. And that is informing our political culture. And so I said, you should start reading like a book on deep state, like understanding what's operating at that level, because that's a place where people can begin to see the results of that, and then dive into the other pieces, because it's a lot to even comprehend, even though we all know that it's an end of era. No, I'm not going to say end of time, end of era. The era has ended.
Yeah.
And I declare that the era has ended, that the human being is now choosing to operate on this earth in a way of love. And with that, it's going to change all the political culture and all the things. But I think for the normal 3D human being, it's exceptionally unreachable to understand any of this.
Well, I think that the normal human being has the capacity to understand it. I think that it's a matter of whether or not there's cognitive dissonance, and then whether or not they are willing to see it. So ignorance is bliss, right? They would rather just be in their life and stay pleasant. And there's this sort of spiritual bypassing happening.
Yes, I agree.
That was not happening before on the planet. I mean, to a certain degree, yes, but I think that there's been an influx of that energy and a washing over and a veil that has been placed over people. And until they can get rid of that veil and take their power back and embody their actual beingness, we're going to have people that are being swayed this way and swayed that way and not taking personal responsibility for their own thought patterns. So it comes down to like thought patterns and mind control.
Yep.
And eugenicists and like all the levels of eugenics that are involved in this whole situation also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a series that I'm doing called Story Time with Sarah Lise, where I am actually reading this book.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I feel that every single chapter is like a whole exploration into all the different levels of what's going on in our reality that has started through eugenics. Specifically, that's what I was talking about. The modern version of this is interrelated to eugenics and pedophilia and bloodletting and vampirism and cannibalism, right? The fact that nobody even knows that this is happening on the planet is mind-blowing to me, you guys. Like, how has it been so easy for them to pull the wool over everyone's eyes in this regard? It is literally happening in every city. It is literally happening in every town. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's everywhere. It's not like it's just in a few places. It's everywhere. It's everywhere on the planet.
Well, with that being said, interestingly enough, I was having a very cool conversation with Sarah, who works on my farm, and we were talking about the pedophilia ring that was on Fox Island, Sarah Lise, that was next to Beaver Island.
Right.
So, right, because we've
we
worked on that so many times. And there's a whole
I
story
got it.
connected to that. And I can put the link in here with some of the information about the Fox Island pedophilia ring just here in Michigan.
Can you put it into the Ladies of Liberty?
Sure.
Thread?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's here in every idyllic, beautiful, high-end town that there is. It's here in northern Michigan.
It's everywhere.
So in Mackinac, and it's everywhere. In Mackinac City is actually one of the biggest places because we're between Canada and the United States. So
it's a way station.
It's a way station for importing people. It's human trafficking. It's huge, and then it goes down to Port Huron. So as I research, I'm beginning to see, and I'm open. I guess that's the other key, is that I have become open and receptive to finding the truth and seeing a lot. So that's my take.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. And it came through the work that we've done together that you became open to this, right?
For years. You and I have worked together 10 years. Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating that we are observing it on an energetic level.
Yeah.
And that's what's bringing her into the physical research. It's not the other way around, right?
Right. Definitely not.
So that's what's so cool about Sean and I, is that we've been doing it on an energetic for so many years. And so that's how she has been, it's been informed through the observation of it on the etheric and on the other subtler planes that we have come into the physical with it.
Yes.
Fascinating. Super fascinating. Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
Lucia, would you like to share, okay, I have somebody coming, but I want to hear your story about your foster care mom, you know, what you did.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I fostered for 8 years, and I fostered mostly young children under the age of 3, very sick babies, and also extremely, how do I put, the behavior of these children were almost like they were possessed. And I know without a shot, I'm a clairvoyant and energy worker and whatever else you want to call me, that's what I am. I can do lots of things. I feel I was getting pictures with these kids. So it was a very, very difficult work. I did it for 8 years. And I ended off with teens. And the last 2 teens that I had in 2014, I said to my boss, I was now not with CPS, or what we call CAS in Canada. I wasn't with them because they fired me, just like Sarah Lee's told. It's a different story, and I won't go into why I got fired, but suffice it to say that I was trying to take care of a 6-month-old baby, and they didn't like it, and I went over their heads because I don't do very well when somebody says no to me, so, or they ignore me. So I went higher, and anyway, I got fired 9 months after I did that. And the 2 young girls that I worked with was with a private agency, but the owner had worked with Children's Aid, so she knew that I got a bum rap, and so she took me on. Anyway, I ended up telling her just about 3 months before I retired that I was pretty certain that one or both of the teen girls that I had, and they were 14 and 15, was in some kind of a sex trafficking ring. And she said to me, well, how do you know that? And I said, trust me. I said, my gut's never wrong. And I know I'm not wrong. Anyway, it was centralized. It was the home that they were going to, that they were visiting. They were bringing the girls in through the window, the basement window. They were to all the youth shelters. We have like homes in private homes in our communities that are set up with these, I call them high-risk teens, because they're high risk, but usually more than just, not just suicide, but all kinds of issues that they have, right? So they're multi-issue, and they're very easy to, all you have to do is buy, with these girls, all you had to do was buy makeup. That's it. And I, like, when all this came to light, finally I looked at my girls and I said, did I ever say no to you for buying a mascara or an eye pencil or whatever? I wanted to understand where they were coming from. But then these kids are not like you and I, in the sense that they're damaged. They're either alcohol or drug, or both addicted at birth.
Right.
So, you know anything about fetal alcohol kids?
Yes. Yeah.
You can tell a fetal alcohol child, a toddler, okay, you can tell them, don't touch the stove because it's hot. They don't hear that it's hot, and they don't even understand what the hot is. Even if you put your hand on a hot stove, like we used to, when our kids were little, we lightly touch it so that they would know that they could burn themselves, so to stay away from it. Well, these kids don't know that. Besides the fact that a lot of them probably don't have that center in their brain that works. In other words, if they cut themselves,
they don't know the difference in discernment. They don't know the difference between right and wrong. They don't have the capacity or the ability, because of having been addicted in the womb,
yes,
to be able to discern like
exactly
what is going to be harmful to them in any given way. So they're like, woo, it's like they're disconnected from their reasoning brain.
Not just reasoning brain, but also even just here.
So yeah, even just here and embodied enough to actually be able to comprehend that. Yeah, for sure.
They can
dissociation,
never,
right? They're not even in their bodies, really. They're not.
That's right.
They're not embodied. Yeah.
No, they're not. And with the trauma, they wouldn't be. And then they get like super behavioral. Like I was trying to explain, I can't think of it's 4 years I'm retired, and I don't think of those terms anymore, right? So, but it's a little difficult to explain to you that these children couldn't even say what happened to them. So they were perfect.
Right. They don't know. They didn't know.
They were absolutely perfect.
Wow.
And there is a ring going on right in Children's Aid. I could not prove it. But I'm going back now. I've been retired 4 years. So let's go back, for 6 years, because I was working for that agency then.
14, yeah.
And that was the private agency. I worked with the Children's Aid from 2005 to 2012.
Okay.
Wow. And I will swear on a stack of Bibles today, and I would have done it 6-7 years ago, that there was something going on. That organization, the stuff that I picked up just intuitively. And I was a foster parent. I was very involved in the Foster Parent Association. I was an active member, but I was not on the board. I chose not to be on the board on purpose because I would have killed these guys. And I could not, no, because I could not control what was going to come out of my mouth. I talk truth, right? We don't have a choice as to whether or not we do. We just do. And we don't know why we do it. And I think it was Rosalind who said something about, I've known, I don't know how I know, but I know. I've known my whole life. I didn't, about all the corruption in each of the organizations, not just banking and I worked in the banking industry in 4 different Canadian banks, and I could tell you stories, but I've known all this within my being, likely because we're the people that are supposed to, help recreate the world that I have always dreamed about, that I know each of you has always dreamed of, right? And that we're like this close to that earth. And the fairies, you mentioned something about the fairies and all that. As a child, I danced with my angels. I saw the fairies. I interacted with them. They come to me in dreams. And I've always I tell my granddaughter that the unicorns are in 5th dimension.
Yeah.
Right? You're right. There is magic. The story, Sarah-Lise, that you were telling is so fascinating. It'd be great if you could write that down or something. Everybody needs to know that story.
We need to really get clear about Tartaria, because supposedly Vladimir Putin put into the public, released the documents about Tartaria. So there's a whole level of reality that we are not even aware of, you guys.
Right.
That's recent, within the last 150 years, 170, 200 years.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty certain.
That's mind-blowing to me to think about.
I know, but I'm pretty certain that I have been there. I've been there.
Energetically, you mean?
Energetically, I have been there. I have memories
seen the giants. I've literally been in ceremony in another country.
Yeah.
And the giants come and sit down and watch me.
Yep. Because they know who you are.
Yeah. I mean, they're just they're here, they're actually here. I mean, I've had Sasquatch experiences. I've had Fae experiences. I've had mermaid. I've had them all. I've had all the levels. I mean, and I'm sure I haven't had all the levels, but it feels like I've had a lot of experience with that realm of reality that's here and so ever present, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's important for us to understand that I had this actual thought this morning, you guys, about, I was having a hope and a dream, really, that when we stepped into this other reality, fully and completely, that Bina was going to be there and Max was going to be there, and all these people that crossed over and transitioned that we are close to, we're going to be there and be like, hey, what's up? And we'd be like, oh my God.
Listen,
you're not the only thought, and I was like, that's a cool ass thought to have,
No, you know what?
All these people are going to be on the other side.
I've had the same thought.
Right?
Yes.
So weird.
Exactly the same. And
so
I don't think that's by accident. I think
something's going on. I definitely feel like something on that level is going. I don't know exactly what, but I definitely feel that there's some level of them being able to either manifest a body or something where we'll be able to interact with them again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And having the thought that I'm never going to see this Max again. That's just been really hard for me. Max Spears, the super soldier that was suicided.
Yeah.
Right. Or murdered. Let's just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's, and he's a beloved of mine. Right. So for me, it's really intertwined with my inner child and all the levels of my heart. And I just had this thought oh, wow, I wonder if I step over into this other reality and there he is. But anyway, regardless of any of that, I just want to wrap this up because I feel that we are actually going to do more of these. This is my sense, is we're going to do more roundtable meetings, and yeah.
Just before we close, I didn't get to share on my part.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to share something too. I just wanted to say I have to wrap it up because of
Perfect.
I have somebody that's coming. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, ladies. So first, I want to honor the foster children. And these days, you know, some of these foster children can be given up to 14 different medications a day. And so this whole opioid drugging, this whole drug reality, it's actually tied to the oil road. It is a very intricate, intimate, not just medications from pharma, but all types of substances and alcohol, and it's part of the culture. It's part of the culture. So I just want to honor the foster children, and you know, that are going through what they're going through, and may we all, like, how do we support not having this happen like this anymore? I mean, really, like, these so serious. So there's that. I also it's interesting, last night I was having a conversation, and some of, you know, my family members, they just need to stay where they're at. They need, the people who are consistently following mainstream media only all literally have the same reactions. There isn't any openness. There's intense reaction and attack if you say the president's name, if you say the wrong word. Literally in less than 60 seconds, there's this like demon energy that comes up to shut everything down. And this place where this shadow energy is wanting to separate us, some of these family members are aware of that. They're like, they just want to separate us. But what I've witnessed is that the people following mainstream media only absolutely are in war, separation, they don't have any tolerance. They absolutely, cognitive dissonance, will not go there. But those that I know that are not following the mainstream media I've noticed, seem to show up and are being open to, you know, we're all working this out together. We're all gathering information. What do we feel a resonance with? What do we not? Where are the patterns? Where, in all angles, how do the patterns match up? Where's the alignment? Okay, what's the architecture and infrastructure going on in this colonizer Prague we're living in? And these things, there is a system, there's a mapping. There's, and there's
the
many
science.
There's science, and there are many people who have been in the deep state, who have been into these satanic realities at the lower levels, that are coming out, the whistleblowers, to let us know what these protocols are, what their ethics are, how they do things. It makes it really helpful if you can do a little bit of research, because looking at this through the human's heart again, we can't relate to it because it's a complete reversal code. So last night I made mention of the sex trafficking, the children, the pedophilia. Literally did not get into anything. And I had a very strong reaction to shut me down immediately. And I said, you know, I respect everyone is where they're at, but for me personally, I have a personal family karma. I have a personal karma thread in my own body, in the womb I grew in, that has had me have to track this thread in the world, which has brought to me one of our brothers who was entrapped as a child actor into the whole pedophilia ring, and then ended up getting other boys in. There's a whole documentary we could all take a look at and watch him. He's currently running for president. He's been said that he will be the transition president in 6 years. Okay. So there are people who are in my life that I've dealt with for many years, where I've had the firsthand experience of watching the distortions, the illusions, how they come in, they learn the language, they speak, they're the savior. Some people think they're Jesus Christ himself. Little do they know, they have been indoctrinated as a child. They are living inside the mansion of the shadow. They are in the armpit of George Soros. They are hanging with the Epsteins. They are in there feeding the drugs, the sex to the children that come to see them. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with it. It happened as a boy for this person. He loves it. the whole gay mafia. Hi, what? When you look at the rituals and what's going on in here, and that's not, that just flew out of my mouth. But there's something in their culture that there's something within that word I just said you need to explore for yourself. But
it's not actually that they're a gay mafia, though. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
there's a distortion. It's not really the gay part. That's only a little piece of it. It doesn't even, it's not
but it
gay,
is a piece
it's not
of it.
pedo. It's pedophilia, gay, vampire drinking blood, eating the flesh, cannibalism, eating human meat. There are the Cannibal Club in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, on freaking whatever that boulevard is. I've seen it. It exists. It's a private restaurant. It is real, you guys. There's an entire culture.
They're wanting to normalize it.
They are doing everything they can to try to normalize it. But here's the thing. We just evicted all those motherfuckers.
Got it.
This is not happening on our watch. This is not happening in this world any longer.
No.
And the Divine Mother Council and the Divine Mother presences of this planet, the Sophia consciousness, has had enough. And the Sophionic mission is to bring this shit to a close and reset and reintegrate the heart and the organic soul of the human and move into the golden age.
Yes, aho, amen, ra.
Amen.
Aho.
Amen.
And
Aho.
I'm going to finish saying what I'm saying. And
Go for
yet,
it.
this is what we're especially in the Lionsgate.
You got me charged, girl.
No, I just want to say, I was a professional dancer with one of the top dance agents in Los Angeles for 13 years back in the 90s. I was a young girl like Demi Moore at the same time coming into the system. I was,
Me too.
I was electromagnetically repulsed around the big money people, and I didn't know why, but I knew it was dangerous. I knew it was very dangerous. And because I was a dancer, me saying the gay mafia, all I knew were the gay guys at that time. They're my family. I love them. That wasn't an insult there. But in realizing what's really going on here and how they're indoctrinating through the rituals and actually hearing that thread, I'm still integrating that. There's a truth in there, but I'm still integrating that because it kind of freaked me out because there was something about it that I went, oh my God, that's so true. But anyway, so my friend last night is like yelling at me and I'm like, listen, I respect you, but for me, my mother, my grandfather was in the military. Something happened in that family. Something happened to my grandmother. We don't know what it was. But when my grandfather, who created the Snark missile, had a heart attack and died, my mother was 17 years old. Her mother went into a mental institution for a little while. I don't know if he's a cousin or an uncle. She'd only seen one other time for a moment, showed up at her door because no one took my mother in at 17. Her daddy just died. Her mommy's in a mental institution. Her two other sisters were off with someone, but they left her by herself. And so I don't know if it's uncle or cousin, I don't remember, but he showed up. He said, you need to come with me. Your mother told me to come get you. I'm going to help you do your schooling. And basically took her, used her for forgery, raped her. He started a child pedophilia ring from the north to the south. He had 12, 13 of his own children that he put into the whole system. My mother did become pregnant with that. He attempted to abort that baby manually. It didn't work. My mother got away. She gave birth to that boy in the adoption ring where they would steal your babies and the girls, they wouldn't even know they had a choice. And I was conceived and grew in that same womb. Probably after her baby boy, my brother, was taken. It was within probably 3-4 months I was conceived. So I grew in a womb, and my mother never received support as this young girl who never finished high school. No one helped her out. No one even acknowledged. They said, oh, she just ran away. There was no repair done. Only in the last.
No one even came looking for her.
No one even came looking for her. Welcome to Florida. Such a special place back then. And so she has had to take that on, but it's only been in the last 10 years to do that level of healing because it was so traumatic. And I had sexual abuse from my 4th through my teens. I wasn't abducted. Although I was remembering it yesterday. I was like 4 years old and I would walk 3 blocks to the park, and I was walking back. My mom was in the yard and I was just across the house, and this white pickup truck stopped and said, "Hey, this guy, if you let me see your underwear, I'll let you get in my truck." And he kept repeating it. And I was like, with my shorts, "These are them." And he ended up driving off. But that moment I could have been taken. And it was right there as I'm looking at my mom across the street, and she's not even noticing. Okay. The sexual abuse I received as a child, I can say that these children, these young people in the indoctrination, to be able to use your voice is not, unless you have a strong foundation with you don't use your voice. I don't even remember what was said to me to not ever say anything. And then, and even if I did, I talked to my dad about it when I was probably in my late 20s, and his response was, "Well, good thing I didn't know, I would have killed him." That was his response. But I have had to, through dealing with current human beings in my current living room, in my current life that I did not want in my life, but that showed up there anyway, that the community supported to be there because they were throwing their soul at the feet of power, money, fame, fortune, way beyond the prayer of humanity, that I was there creating this community, holding the prayer for humanity, for reclaiming the birth through the death gate, putting the women and the children back at the center of the circle, brothers holding that place correctly, women's work, men's work, cross-generational council wheels. This community that brought this prayer forth was so mesmerized, they brought a current deep stater in, and I would say, so I could smell it, taste it, touch it, see how the spiritual energies warble the field, how they infiltrate, how there's a trance state, how it's hard for people to even take it in. They deny it. And if it's not their personal karma, it's too painful. It's too painful. For me, I've had to, because it was in the womb I grew in, and it's our planetary situation. And I didn't come back here for any old reason. I came here to bring the new earth through, to return back to original mother law. How do we do that when we have this situation? We need to know what we're dealing with. So I want to wrap this on, we are where we are. We all have the capacity and ability to research, look at things from where we are looking at them. Just deep respect for where everyone is. I will say that with my research, direct dealings, especially since I would say, for 30 years, but since 2018, even before that, but 2018 forward, in terms of having to look at the child sex trafficking, look at the online pedophilia rings, look at how many people are engaged in it, looking at the dark web and 98% of Bitcoin going to sex trafficking of children, looking at that is the #1 money-making endeavor for the deep state, is being a woman that's bringing the blood mysteries back in the beauty way. So when the women put their blood, their menstrual blood in prayer back to the earth in a good way, we take our men back from war and them having to shed their blood. I had to, in my ceremonial menstruation, before I even started looking at all this stuff, back in 2009, in terms of blood work, I was like, wow, there's a vampire here that's stolen our ways, that's using our blood and our DNA for a very black magic curse. And that my work with reclaiming the blood of humanity, the birth through the death gate, in the beauty way, pure form, I could not be doing this work without seeing the distortion in the reversal code that has been placed on our DNA of our children and our mothers and our brothers and our babies. And I just want to tip my halo to any single person who has the courage to do this research, because for me, as I've done the research, as I've had to go through waves of grief to rebalance again, to go through another layer and another layer, I want to say, as prepared and clear as I feel, just this last week in our little community here, there was a video shared of just a song, and it was of Trump and the white hats doing the rescue missions for the children.
Oh, that song, the woman singing?
I don't remember the woman because all I can see is the children.
Okay.
Yeah. And with all the work I've done, seeing these 6 or 7 photographs of these children being rescued, which I knew all about all this stuff. I hadn't specifically seen, again, what do we call it, panda eyes, where they had the children have the black and blue eyes, they're blacked out eyes. Lady Gaga does the makeup and different music people where they do the black makeup. That is from internal bleeding from the ritual abuse. And we saw a 2-year-old little girl who had that completely sitting there, completely traumatized beyond, and a little baby that I don't even know if that baby was alive.
The baby boy. Yeah.
I just want to say, with as grounded as anyone can be after a long-term process and research to be guardians of what we need to do, seeing that baby and that little girl, I've cried every day. It takes so much to be able to maintain coherency and do what we need to do. I have to tell you right now, it's not okay. This is not okay. And the people who don't want to hear about Trump, they shut down and they're thinking it's just politics. This is huge. And it's way beyond politics. It's about the saving of our souls.
That's right.
Humanity.
That's right.
That's
It's
right.
saving our souls of humanity. This moment now is astrologically that we've been in is setting the seeds for the next 800 years.
Yes.
That is the next 7 generations beyond. We are the ones setting the tone. We are right now. So to be able to navigate and go through the consciousness portal and to be coherent and healthy and stand together and just take in what we can and take breaks when we need to and true breaks, clean it out all the way. And then when it's right, go back in. We have to stand together. We are fighting for the soul of humanity. And it is absolutely way beyond not okay. And if we actually understood what was going on, we would stop this immediately. This is not okay. It must stop. I know it's already stopped in the interdimensional realms. We were working it. The prayers that happened this weekend, Sarah Lise, you spoke about, all of our prayers, we are systematically in layers clearing this completely out. We are off the planet. Grandmothers around our planetary body, Black Panthers from our, like all dimensional, spiritually. We are doing this work and it needs to stop fully physically and be cleaned, cleared, healed all the way. And it seems to me, Trump seems to be doing the work. And I've heard it out of his mouth. And the last thing I'll say, and some of these people, family who only do mainstream media, they hear that 2-minute clip where he's actually taking care of these pedophilia type things. He's actually handling it. They can't hear it. All they say is, he's Hitler. I want to acknowledge we are.
He's going up against the Hitlers. They don't understand that part.
Right. Well, that's the thing. They're seeing the consciousness we're dealing with. So they're accurate on that.
He's literally facing them head on.
He's the mirror that we're seeing that in. Exactly.
In your bedroom.
Because this Nazi consciousness is happening. But
Absolutely.
This is a distortion spiritually. Oh, who's doing it? It's him. Actually, he's there trying to stop it.
Well, it's also the reverse spell, right? It's that reversal spell that they've got, this thing to they're projecting all of their darkness onto him they're demonizing him as if he is actually a megalomaniac, whatever. And then when you see him actually interacting with people, you can tell that he's got this massive heart. He's totally loves everybody. He's done all this crazy, amazing stuff for people over the years that nobody talks about. He's literally helped underprivileged societies for years. He's been involved in trying to bring this back into balance, trying to bring everything back into right relations. I mean, it's been his whole life. He's been involved in all the crazy and the mafioso, whatever, right? He's been with the mob. He's got the keep your enemies closest, right? He's literally that guy. But that doesn't mean that he didn't participate. But what it does mean is that right now he's taking action.
Yes.
Right now, he's the one taking that action. He's the one showing up. Respect.
Yes. And
respect, yo.
And it's, this whole field towards him and this whole field towards all of us who speak outside of the mainstream narrative, y'all, when you see it, when you actually see it, when you actually see what's really going on, when you actually see it, it's baby shit, the rest of this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, baby poop. We love baby poop with breastfed milk, beautiful smelling. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make that. We love our baby poop. We love our baby poop.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. But when you see what's really going on, it's a whole different game. And most people are on a lower, like a political, smaller level or something that's not what we're really dealing with. That's the point.
They're under mind control.
And it's been systematic, and I'm watching it happen, and it's really curious. I have to say, it's very fascinating to watch. So anyway, rainbows, flowers, unicorns,
baby poop,
mermaids, beautiful, sweet smelling.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
I know.
I never use that. I never say that term. I never say any of that. I don't even know where that came from. Literally,
It's just funny, man.
it's not even my
Probably-
words.
It's probably to make us laugh
Yeah.
because you were on a tangent, right?
Right.
So,
I was on a
and it was
tangent.
getting serious. Yeah,
It was getting really serious. Well, this is a serious
Yeah.
conversation. And
it is.
I'm not
I
backing
didn't
down
mean to
from it,
undermine
you
that.
know?
That's
No,
good.
no.
Thank you.
It did get really serious for a minute there. And then now I'm going to share a little bit, and I'm just going to be super like on the surface, you guys. I'm going to be super cliff notes and like just on the surface. I'm just going to plant some seeds so that you guys can kind of understand a little bit about me and why my mission, and it comes from the mother dragon in me, of like, did we just lose someone? What happened?
Yeah, Laurel.
No, she's right here, but she took her camera off. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just going to be brief. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I just want to say that the drive within me comes from having been born into this and having been sold pre-birth to secret military projects and to eugenics programs specifically. Okay, I was a part of that. They took my blood. They electrocuted me. They took my blood. Okay, my entire physical body had to be rebuilt from the ground up. My central nervous system was completely and utterly jacked. 7 to 10 times an hour, I was being triggered. Like I could not hold it together. And this is into my 40s, you guys. Like I couldn't succeed at anything. I couldn't really do anything because my body had been so completely annihilated by the abuse that I had experienced. And then I continued on my own, right? Because I didn't know that, how to get myself out of it. I was in Hollywood for 20 years, for God's sakes. I was literally so in it. But the whole time I could see and knew what was going on because I'd lived it. And I almost got famous 9 times in Hollywood. They used me in every situation they could possibly think of to harvest my energy, to make me be a vessel for them, to harvest me for the population so that I could harvest energy from the population for them. But here's the thing. I wouldn't sell my fucking soul. I wouldn't sign a contract. Why? Because I'd already been in secret military programs. I'd already experienced all of that. And my whole consciousness was fragmented and split in 1,000 different pieces. The core of me, though, was perfect and had never been touched. And somehow I was able to hold my humanity through all of that shit that I went through, being offered to have a centerfold of Playboy magazine and make tons of money. Nope. Be the lead star of this series on television, when I found out who the executive producer was that wanted me to be a part of this, and I read for them and I got the part, nope. I would have been a household name right now. But it required me to do what friends do. And I wasn't willing to be a friend of Lucifer.
Right.
So it wasn't an option for me. And I would be golden lassoed out every single time in Hollywood, just like yanked by the angels, just pull me out of these situations where I almost got sacrificed. I almost got killed a million times. I've been direct hit on my life for so many times. They've tried to kill me. It would blow your fucking mind. Blow your mind. Like once every couple of weeks, car trying to hit me in the road while I'm walking across the street. Whatever they could think of, they were trying to take me out. I survived it all. Why?
We know why.
Because I'm here right now, motherfuckers.
That's right. Yes, and smiling.
You know? So just to say that I'm so grateful that I can actually have this conversation, that I can actually speak my truth. I've been holding this shit my entire life. I'm 51 years old. I haven't spoken of it. I've said a few things here and there. But for me to tell my story, no way. And I still haven't told my story in completion from beginning to end. And I will when it's safe to do so.
That's right.
I've been waiting that fucking long.
Mm-hmm.
And so those that are in alignment with the God source energy, I truly believe that those are the people that will receive the monies for the humanitarian projects that will then move into the next phase and be the administrators of the new earth. That's what I truly understand to be true for myself.
Yeah, I do too.
And that we will work together as a crew, as a collective, to be able to work as a circle, as council, for the chalice of the mother to receive those divine energies and to then spread them to benefit everyone. All humans, all lives matter. I'm going to say it. So I'm so grateful that we had this time together. I'm so deeply, just deep bows to everyone that was here and everyone who's going to hear this recording and to witness us and to witness yourself in this process that we're in all together on earth right now. It's going to get darker before it gets brighter. There's no question about that. When the information comes forward, it's going to shock even us, I'm sure. It's way deeper than we can possibly comprehend without seeing it in a visual sense and hearing it with our own ears. But just to say that it has to be real because I went through it. And so for me, it's like, I'm not one of those people that can be like, oh, that can't be true. That can't possibly. Really? Really? No. I lived it. This is like full redemption for me. Like coming into like right alignment after all these lifetimes of this bullshit. Like it's like a culmination of lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of distortion that is getting all like zoop, zounk, you know, so that we come into alignment with this frequency of source energy and vertical alignment as opposed to horizontal harvesting. That's what's happening. We are accessing source and we are giving it back, and there's a circulation happening. There's a movement, right? There's a what is the word I'm looking for?
A flow.
There's a flow. Yeah, there's a flow of source energy.
When I was at Children's Aid, that whole thing, I had a breakdown. I was also in a car accident 2 years prior, and I never got any help because I didn't want to leave the children. But I was told when I left by Children's Aid social workers. There were a couple that were really nice people that were not into all that other stuff that told me to watch my back. So I know what you're talking about. I had people following me. Um, I didn't, they didn't try and kill me, but I was told, to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, the other thing I got after the fact was that I would, you cry because I had to leave these kids. And for me, that was the hardest thing. I wasn't there for anybody else but those children.
Yeah.
And in my tears, my angels told me that I would see redemption in this lifetime. I had no idea what they really meant about that. I just figured, oh yeah, so maybe, the head foster care lady that was a bitch to me
Right.
was going to,
Maybe
something
she'll
was going to
get
happen to
fired
her,
or
right? She'll
something.
go to jail or she'll get fired or something. I did not think. And I didn't even realize how widespread all of this was and how it's all connected until just a few years ago. But not while I was there.
And to think that a lot of people still don't have any idea
No.
what level this is operating
No.
on.
But
80,000 children in Beirut, you guys. 80,000 children.
I know. That's crazy.
And that was only one explosion.
I know. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. It humbles you,
Yeah.
It just really humbles you. I know I was there for a reason. I know that I was supposed to see what I saw. And, Laurel, I didn't give the drugs that they were telling me to give these kids. They were psychotropic drugs. And I know I wouldn't have given them to my children. So to me, those are my kids. And I didn't I have 4 kids, but I wouldn't give them to my own. So whatever I wouldn't do for my own children, because these kids were like my kids. I was their mama, okay, for the time. But they used to bring them from those situations that you described about the sacrifice. I would get them.
Yeah.
At that, and I knew. It would take some time. The longest were two young girls, and it took 6 months for these kids to calm down. My kids wanted me to send them back, and I said no. I said, because nobody else can do what I can do.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're going to slip through the cracks. And even after the fact, 5 months it took me to calm these 2, and they were sisters, to calm them down. And anybody else, they tell me, would have given up foster. And I know that they moved these kids around. Now I know why they moved them around.
Wow.
I kept asking them, why are you moving this kid? You just brought him 2 days ago. Well, we found a home. I said, well, what's wrong with my home? I have a bed.
Wow.
Right? Why do you always drop them off at my place and then come and pick them up 24 hours later? That's what they were doing. You know why? Because they knew that I was picking and I was tapped in. You have no idea the stories I can tell you. So I couldn't prove anything, and I couldn't go to the cops because the cops, she was married. The head lady was married to a local cop. And I don't know anybody in the police. I don't have anybody personally that I would know.
So imagine how many of these foster parents feel completely powerless, right? Because
actually, most of them don't have a clue, and they do what they're told. I never do what I'm told. You tell me no, I'll tell you why. Watch me. Watch me. You said I can't do it? Watch me. I can do it. They used to come back after a couple of weeks and say to me, why do these kids look normal?
Hello, God is blessed.
I had nurses tell me, and the health nurses come in. She says, Lucia, you not only have the most beautiful children here, but she says, we don't recognize them. I'm here once a week, she says, and I can't believe it's the same kid that I saw last week.
They're not drugs.
Wow.
There was so much magic going on with the divine. And I felt God's hands on these babies, on 2 of my babies. I actually felt his hand in my, while I hold these babies, drug addicted babies. And, it's like I had
you were exercising them.
Yes, but not just physically, but emotionally.
Well, all
right?
of it. Yeah. You were just clearing the energy
Just
out
clear.
of the field.
Well,
Yeah.
I asked God in meditation, what is it that I do for these kids? And and what I got was their light comes on. So when I get a baby that is drug and alcohol addicted, okay, and I'm lucky to get it right from the hospital because I go to pick the baby up. So newborn, we're talking. And in they're disconnected. They have no light in their eyes. These babies are disconnected because
embodied.
they haven't. That's right. They're not embodied. Within 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. It depends on what the drug was, right? And whatever else they gave them in the hospital that I would know about, right? But I don't give them anything.
So they're detoxing basically.
They're detoxing with me the whole time that they're with me, right? Their body shakes, their face it contorts. I've seen like some terrible, horrible things, but I can't give these kids up. I could never send them back. So they got smart, they got wise to me, and they realized that I was picking up way too much, but I was powerless. I mean, I don't really believe that. I know that I'm a goddess, okay? And I'm a spark of God's energy and his light, and I walk fearless, okay? Even on fire, I wouldn't be afraid, okay? I know what I came here to do. I didn't know exactly what it was until fostering. That just solidified that it was definitely children. And it reminded me of a dream that I had about these kids. I was, do you guys remember watching Touched by an Angel? Remember the Cadillac?
Long time ago, the lady, the black lady and the white lady.
Right. My dream was like that. Yeah. My dream was exactly that. And I pulled up to this white picket fence, white house. Okay. All clapboard. It was white. It was all wood on the outside. And I was told by this voice, who I didn't see, but I was sitting beside this person, who I presume was my guide. Right. And they told me to just open the gate and just walk in the door. And as I walked in the door, it looked sterile. It looked like a hospital, or no, I would probably say more like an insane asylum kind of. It had like that kind of feel. So I know there was a lot of things. Anyway,
I spent my child in those places.
As I was walking up the aisle, there were doors on both sides. Okay. So at first this door would open and this lady would come out with a full dress as a nurse with the little hat. Do you remember those? In the 50s and the 40s, right? This kind of, and a different woman would come out on either side with a baby all swaddled, holding, right? Now, that's the way I remember the story. I wrote this dream down. I found it the other day. All these babies were malformed. They were all missing limbs. And I didn't know what that meant. I don't remember it that way, but I wrote this dream down, but I've been telling the story that I told in my 30s when I had this, so it was before fostering, 20 years before fostering.
Wow.
And I now realize that house, right, was a house of horrors.
Oh, wow.
So.
As we're integrating this, I'm bringing the children's eternal peace flame in. This flame from our great central sun that's been burning continuously for almost 7 years. And just holding the children's eternal peace flame of our great central sun to bless us and all that's been shared here. Just giving deep gratitude for these ladies here and for the family that's listening into this conversation, blessing our hearts and our bellies, our feet that stand upon our beautiful Mother Earth, our spiritual roots that go into our Earth Mother and spread in all directions, always being one with us. Blessing our sacred hearts, our sacred consciousness, and our courage to arrive and be the guardian warrior angel sister queens here doing our particular missions for the all, and for the courage to show up and help these children, to show up, to help, to do, just to show up, just to show up and be present. So much gratitude. We are all so important. We make such a difference. Our love matters. Our courage matters. Us arriving here matters. So I just wanted to say thank you and bring some of this shine here of this sacred prophecy flame.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind everybody, we are the ones that we're waiting for.
Yes.
And we need every single one of you to wake up. Every single one of you, because there's so many children that need us. So many children.
So many.
So,
So many humans. Billions of humans have been taken,
messed with.
stolen, murdered, expired.
Yeah.
It cannot continue.
No.
And there will be more before it stops. That is very clear. So the sooner we wake everyone up, the sooner people come into the awareness and the knowing of what this is and what we have going right now in this transitional time into the new age, we need to clean up the mess. Take full responsibility for our embodiments.
Mm-hmm.
And shamoy yeke tiapa ke he mahe chia te e mo hoi neke paita da yo hotiete. Shamai kiata siokopoine kiata topo koe te kshata shiaka chiata te ke pochata he maha he. Shafa kitiata to. Recognizing the true light within each and every one of us that exists, and all the soul fragments coming back to the ones that have been released from the madness. We pray for divine stillness within the souls of these beautiful beings, that they may reintegrate their souls on their journey for the benefit of all beings. And those that are still suffering, we offer them the Cosmic Mother's grace of holding them in her arms, that she is there with them, comforting them. They are not alone. The Divine Mother Matrix is coming online each and every day, in every moment, bringing balance to the masculine, feminine hemispheres, consciousness in humanity and on the earth plane, and internally as well. And hence then moving into the living library and out into the universe, affecting all levels of reality. We simply bless this time together. We thank each and every individual for being here and having been on this call. We know that divine and compelling right action is taking place in every moment. And for this we give thanks, knowing it cannot return to us unfulfilled. It is already done in the mind of God, Goddess, all that is. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be free from suffering. And so it is.
So it is. That world's coming. We're on its path already.
It's birthing up from within us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jesselyn, can you come on the camera to say goodbye? I'm going to turn off the recording now.
Nice.
Bye. Thanks for being here.